What's good, YouTube? I'm Robert with the Crosscut Creations channel. I've been living a lie. I have not lived up to my Crosscut Creations name. So today we're gonna fix that. Let's go.
Oh hi, it's been a minute since I've done a voiceover. It's good to be back. I started this project by taking some materials that I had left over from another build, and I took the rounded edges and removed them from the 2x material. This gave me a flat gluing surface for later. I took the boards to the planer that were going to be my runners for the sled. I planed them down to about 3/4 inch wide, and that fit my table saw nicely. I put some pennies in the tracks so I could lift the runners up. This way I could test the fit and make sure that I had enough gluing surface area for the runners to be attached to the top. I used CA glue and regular wood glue. I used CA glue so I would have an instant bond, but I also used wood glue so I would have a more stronger lasting bond. I got this scrap piece of plywood and put it on the tabletop, lined it up with the fence, and then cut the excess runners flush with the table saw sled. After that was done, I made the first cut into the crosscut sled, and this was after I put some paste wax on the runners. The next step is to add some glue. Again, I'm using CA glue for the more instant adhesion, as well as wood glue for the stronger long-term adhesion. And here I'm just attaching the back fence. The back fence isn't as important if you get it completely square to the blade, because you're not referencing the back fence, you're going to be referencing the front fence. Once I got that in place, I pre-drilled and put screws from the underside into the table saw sled. This allowed for the back fence to be secured. I went ahead and made sure I countersunk each of the screws just so they wouldn't be proud of the sled and run into the table and scratch the table of my table saw. After I worked on the back fence, I moved to the front fence. This was the reference fence. Again, I pre-drilled and screwed one. I put one screw into the fence, and then I squared up the fence after some pivoting, and I put in the remaining screws, again pre-drilling and then putting the screw in. Pre-drilling prevented any splitting from happening, and again I countersunk the screws on the front end as well in order to not scratch the surface of the table saw. Here again I have an extra cutoff for 2x4. I put some wood glue and CA glue again for the same reasons as before. I'm putting this on the front side of my table saw sled, my crosscut sled. The reason I'm doing this is just to give myself an idea of where the blade is, and this way my hands and fingers will never be near the blade, so they won't get chopped off. Here's a final shot of the crosscut sled. I think it came out pretty well for my first one. There are definitely things I would change, but it's definitely going to be functional, and well used in my shop.
Thanks for hanging out with me. This one was a challenge, but it was a much needed table saw sled. If I were to build this again, I would definitely make the footprint just overall a lot smaller. The back fence is way too tall in my opinion. I cut down the front fence that's closest to me a little bit to help me when I'm making cuts. This table saw sled is an absolute beast. It's ginormous, it's heavy, it's bulky. I'm not entirely sure where I'm going to store it. So if I were to do this again in the future, I would definitely make this a smaller sled. But for right now, I think it'll serve me well. It'll do what I need it to do. And this way I'll be able to start segmenting smaller blanks to glue up for pens, and when I need to cross-cut something, even though I do have my miter saw, I'll be able to do it on the table saw. I'll be able to set up a stop block and I'll be able to make repeatable cuts no problem. If you like this video, comment, subscribe, share, give it the thumbs up. We'll see you next time.